Hello, today I'll be talking about the use of digital ethnography as a method for socio-ecological systems research. And yeah, we'll just go through the origin, purpose of this method, how it can be used, examples of how it has been used for socio-ecological research, some ethical, mm, accessibility considerations, and then a conclusion. So digital ethnography, like traditional ethnography, um, is both an approach to research and a research method. So in this way, we're combining theory and practice. And what is key for both of them is that we seek to understand and describe the culture of a community by participating in the life of that community, by observing it, and by being present in for a long time. So in the last 35 years, this method or like this variation of ethnography has emerged given that the internet became like a more widely used tool and people start to be part of online communities. So with this, researchers start to wanted to examine how people interact and communicate in this digital environment. So yeah, we can say that digital ethnography originated in the 90s, and in academia we started to wonder or be curious about how online communities form, how people behave in those communities, what changes happen, what information is flowing there, and why, and why. Um, Basically, the purpose of digital ethnography is to analyze um, uh, online community and the culture that exists within that community, and to understand the behaviors of the people that are part of those communities and the social dynamics. Another way that some people have described digital ethnography is by saying that it's using digital or online tools to conduct research like video conferencing or WhatsApp. However, I would like us to think about digital ethnography as this other definition that is it seeks to understand how people behave on the online part of the world. Um, some advantages is that it's cost effective and broadens accessibility in the sense that for some researchers it might not be possible to spend long periods of time in the field um, given to economic or time constraints, and by doing a digital ethnography um, these obstacles can be overcome. This doesn't mean that we still need like some tools that are costly like internet access and a computer. Pink and their collaborators wrote in 2016 a book called Digital Ethnography, in which they suggest different units of analysis of the data we collect when doing or when using this method. And this is we could look at the experiences that happen in the digital spheres, the practices, the things that are mentioned or done, the relationships that are formed, the social communities and worlds that exist, the localities, the places where this happens, or the places that are mentioned or recalled, and the events that are organized or planned. For, the, for socioecological research, it's important to keep in mind that this method, what we're gonna have at the end is a in in-depth description, a thick description of a community, of a culture. We're gonna have a lot of details. So in this sense, we can answer questions about how communities form and why, the values, the interactions, the interaction that happen, how do they look like, what information is being circulated, and within a community, uh, how the experiences of the people that are part of it vary. In the context of sociological research, for example, we can ask ourselves, how do people learn about the environment? They might learn it through like experience in the place, but also through some information that is available to them in the online sphere. For example, we can also ask questions about how people organize with people that are not um, in the same um, place as them to understand or to solve a problem. And basically, I think a really interesting question is about how do people use the digital space to connect with each other. For example, here I have two pictures. One with kids talking with or using an iPad or a tablet. And this could, for example, in my mind, it sparks a question about how these digital tools help people connect with others that might be part of the physical community, but they're not there at the moment, migrated. So how through the digital sphere they can stay in touch, and also digital ethnography can help us understand, for example, climate action and climate activism in social media. And here I'm going to present an example and an idea, an example of an analysis done in 2022 by Burns and Welker of this data portal done by the city of Calgary in Western Canada, where they have different environmental and social information, and they analyze what information was there, how it was categorized, who made it, what parts of the city or what topics were better represented, and with this they analyzed that uh, or they concluded that, for example, there was a bias about natural science type of data, and that was explained because the person at the government doing this data portal had a background in the natural sciences, so this was replicated in this open data portal. And they also noticed that the most marginalized communities in the city were also less represented in the data portal. So they explore how some aspects of the physical world are replicated in the digital sphere. And this other image is of like an idea a colleague had about exploring how marketplace is used by local producers to sell agricultural products like corn. I use digital ethnography in my master's research to explore how indigenous youth living in or outside their communities in southern Mexico, in Oaxaca, use social media platforms to create projects where they could revitalize, share, and promote the traditional knowledge of their communities. In this sense, I use digital ethnography to explore these digital spaces created by youth, but I also use digital tools like Zoom to bring people together. No? So just some considerations like traditional ethnography, the people that or the community that you're researching or working with should know that you are doing that and should know that you are interested in what they're doing, and this will help you to build rapport. As in any ethnography, we need to reflect if we are familiar enough with the culture that we're studying to draw conclusions. And here I invite people to think about their digital savviness. For example, if you're not familiar with TikTok, might not be the best platform to study, or if you're not familiar with Reddit, the same. And also just some ethical considerations about data and privacy, not because people posted online means that you can use it and their information for a publication or research without their consent. So just to consider those things. And also just think that even if the internet is more accessible, it's important to remember that this accessibility varies across places, across countries. So consider who's being included in your research and who's been left out. On the other hand, it is true that digital ethnography can help us expand how socio-ecological systems work and the interactions that happen there. And it can also help us broaden what communities can be involved, for example, youth or digital activists. And how can they even be involved in the research process? Several digital ethnographies have, at the end, not only an academic product, but also a website designed in collaboration with participants, for example. So just to conclude, since 2019, there's been a rise of like the use of digital ethnography in research in general. However, in socioecological research, this hasn't been like widely explored. So it could be interesting to think about other questions that could be answered using this method, and we should take into consideration these 5 points suggested by Pink about the multiplicity of digital ethnography, meaning that we can look at different communities at the same time, that we should be mindful that um, not everything is happening in digital space, and that often what's happening in the digital space is just a reflection of what's happening in the physical space. And also in this book, Pink invite us to be open about how digital ethnography can be used, to be reflective about how we're conducting it, and just to also embrace unorthodox and creative methods like this one. So for further information, you can check these resources. Thank you.